Hi, I'm Robert, and I'm going to show you how I take this image from here to here, all in Lightroom. At this photo shoot, I showed up in Laguna without a plan. I started wandering around, looking for places to shoot. I ended up at Crescent Beach, and I lucked out. The tide was just right. The waves were crashing at the rock edge, not too far over, so I could capture the rocks in the foreground. The water was also not too far out, where they wouldn't be reaching the rocks. Sometimes there's sand in between these rocks and the waves, and you wouldn't be able to capture this image during those tide conditions. You can see this is high tide because around the corner you can usually walk over here, but right now it's all underwater. It's always best to check the tide conditions before you go out to photograph so you can plan accordingly. Also, you need to know if the tides are coming up or coming down. If you were able to walk out here during low tide and the tide started coming in, you're going to have a hard time getting back out. Alright, let's get started editing this image. Let's start at the bottom like we always do. Update to the most current version. Since I shot this image such a long time ago, back in 2013. As usual, we'll skip vignetting and we'll straighten this image. There you go, now the horizon is straight. It's a lot easier with modern cameras since they have built-in leveler. I shot this on a Canon 40D and it didn't have a level built in, so I just had to eyeball it. But now with my Nikon Z6, I don't have this issue since it has a built-in level. Always make sure your horizons are level when you're shooting landscapes. As usual, click these two boxes and we'll apply our traditional sharpening of 100 and applying the mask. Hold down Alt, increase your mask until we're not sharpening the sky anymore. That looks good. Now the sharpening will just be applied to the other areas that were highlighted in white, and we're not sharpening the sky, bringing in any more grain. We'll skip the color section for now. We'll return to it. This image is a bit warm, so let's bring down the color temperature a little bit. The tint is fine. I'm going to bring the exposure up slightly. I'm going to adjust the highlights down, as I always do, and bring the shadows up. Let's bring our white point up to set our base exposure and bring our black point down. Now that we have our base exposure set, I'm looking at the shadows area and it looks a little bright, so I'm going to bring the shadows down a little bit. There we go. That looks better. It was a little overly bright before, and now we have a nice contrast to our image. We don't need to add any extra. We set a nice contrast point when we're setting our white point and black points. You can see our exposure is good now because we're all the way to the right and all the way to the left on our histogram. When you're out in the field shooting, I never rely on the light meter. I just look at the histogram to tell me where my exposure is at. Next, let's fix this color cast in the sky. I was using a 3-stop soft edge neutral density filter. It was a high-tech branded filter and it had a very strong magenta cast. So let's grab our grad tool, bring it over the sky, and pull it down. This time I'm going to have a wide range of fall off. And let's try and get rid of some of this magenta cast caused by the filter. I'm going to first start by bringing the temperature down. That gets us close. Next stop is the tint. Bring that down. There we go. We got rid of most of it. There's a tiny bit left, but that's okay. So now we have a nice blue sky with this thick layer of clouds on the horizon. When you see clouds like this, know that you're not going to be able to get color during sunset. As soon as the sun passes this line here, you're going to lose everything. So in this case, I started shooting earlier than I usually would because I knew at least now I'll have some blue color in the sky. Once the sun disappears behind this thick layer of clouds, you're not going to get anything. Let's close the grad tool. Now let's go down to the color panel and work on some of these colors. I always start with luminance first. I'm going to adjust the blues, make the blue darker by going negative. So we'll go to -10. Next, I'll go to saturation, and we're going to adjust the saturation of the blue. I want to go up slightly, just a positive 10. We can click here to turn on and off our adjustment so we can see the before and the after. Here's the before. It's kind of washed out. After, nice and saturated, but not overly done. There's one more thing I want to do to make this image pop, so let's grab the brush tool. Press O for overlay, and let's highlight all of this white water. Press O to turn off your overlay. Now let's bring the exposure up slightly to brighten it up. And it still has a little bit of yellow tint, so let's bring the temperature down slightly. Right about there. So now it's a pure white. And close our brush. If you're having trouble seeing the color difference, your monitor might not be showing the full 100% sRGB color range. Also, I know my colors are true because I use a data color Spider Pro checker to calibrate my monitors. It also gives you a report to show how much of the sRGB color space your monitor is displaying. I use a Dell Ultra Sharp monitor that displays 100% of sRGB, and I keep it calibrated with that data color checker. Whenever I make prints, the colors that I see on my monitor always perfectly match my prints. Let's take a look at the composition of this image. We have a line that comes from the corner and leads through the image. So we're having a foreground to background composition, and we're having a right to left. So your eye is looking from the front to the back and from side to side. I hope those tips helped you. Please like and subscribe. Thanks.